What can I do? What could I do? I'm married to you. I'm stuck. It's not some college romance where I can break up and carry on. This goes on in many of our mind, and I'm sure it has gone on in many women, but we are so afraid to speak it. And Meghna Pant's new book deals exactly with this issue, the modern relationship in Boys Don't Cry. So, Meghna, a very, very warm welcome. We're excited to have you. I think this book, just as the title, it gave me goosebumps. So excited to finish reading it.
Thank you for having me over. It's got a wonderful response, and I'm just very pleased, very happy, and feels like redemption. Well earned hard work,
Well, all
redemption.
your books are super hits, so I don't know if you need redemption. And this one already is hitting the bestseller, so that's fantastic. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think
And
it's hit
even a
a raw
movie
now.
deal is
A
already.
movie deal. Day
Wow.
two of the book came out on 17 Jan, and 18 Jan I already got a call from a production house, and that week itself two more production houses called. So I've never seen this kind of response for Badnaam Laddu, of course, terrible, horrible, very bad good news was picked up last year. But this book, I mean, the way it happened so quickly, it was I was thrown off my game. I wasn't expecting such a response at all, to be honest.
I think it's so topical. And the fact is, this is based on a true story. And I think
Yeah.
that's what is probably true also of many, many women. As you have said, 200 million women are abused in India. So,
Yeah.
why did you want to tell us this story? Because it's a little bit different from your other books, which are a little bit lighter in vein.
I think so. Basically, Sukriti, to be honest, this is actually the story of my previous marriage. It's actually what happened to me in real life. And, while I wanted to write a book on abuse, I also wanted it to have a message of hope, of redemption. Because I feel like I was a coward for 5 years, that despite my education, despite my exposure, I'd lived and studied abroad, I was working abroad. I grew up with very unconventional, very forward looking, very intelligent parents who gave me all the liberty and freedom. Even to my brother Saurabh Pant, we were told we could pursue whatever careers we wanted. We were never put into little boxes the way, most Indian kids are. And I felt like despite all that, despite the fact that I didn't have to put up with it, I put up with abuse for 5 years, and not just physical, but also emotional and financial. And it made me feel like a coward. It made me feel like a fool. And I was very hard on myself for almost a decade, during the marriage as well as afterwards while I was healing. But I wanted to put out a message of hope that, in the end, the girl gets her redemption, she gets her revenge. And I think very well deserved revenge, which people are loving, by the way, because she kills off the guy, and we'll see more twists while the book progresses. And I think that's what we need to pass on, that, fine, you've been abused or you are being abused, but change your narrative from a victim to not just a survivor, but a kick-ass survivor, so that no man or even no woman dares to hit their partner ever again. That, we will come out of this stronger and better, and we will show you what we have. I think that's the message that's really hitting a raw nerve with everybody, because there are 200 million abused women in our country, probably even more. And I'm getting so many messages from women in my DMs saying that, even in public actually now, who are speaking out. So, it's giving a platform for women to voice themselves finally, because somebody's finally ready to listen to them. So I think that's why it's doing well.
But it must have been very difficult to pen down such a true story based on your own life. I mean, how was that going back to this and revisiting the past?
So, Sukriti, I've published 8 books in the last 10 years that I've been an author, and the 15 years that I've been writing. It's never taken me so much courage to be able to write a book. But, there's a right time to write the book. So for 8 years, I was mulling over, I was putting together how I would frame the narrative, the plot, the structure, the flow. But I just wasn't being able to gather the courage to sit down and write. When I was pregnant with my second child, I think that's the time when I took a little break after How to Get Published in India came out, and I'd finished the marketing in April 2019. I think that's when I kind of said that now I'm going to just focus on writing the book now. And by 2020, it was ready. And it felt like I'm giving a piece of my heart away. When I sent it to my agent Kanish Gupta and he sent it to Vaishali Mathur of Penguin, I told them that I'm feeling like, I'm giving a part of myself to you. So, we had to handle it with a lot of care, and they both poured their heart and soul into the book. Vaishali, especially, like, she's literally, she's marketing it well. She edited it so well. The cover is beautiful. Already she was my first reader, and she reacted so well to the book, and I think that gave me a lot of positivity, a lot of hope, a lot of courage to go forward even more.
So, something I remember, and this is an article that you wrote way back also in
Yeah,
2015, Why Men Hit and Women Stay. And studies indicate that we know this happens, that physical abuse, even if it occurs once or twice in a relationship, it
yeah.
is going to continue. Yet we continue to believe that men will change or the situation will change. Are we just living in our own imagination? Because the research does not support that change will happen.
I think change is happening, but the one thing that women, I think, need to do is to learn how to speak up, and secondly, to stand up for themselves. So, I hung on to my perpetrator for 5 years in the hope that he would change. But he had hit me 2 weeks before the wedding, and I still agreed to get married to him because by that time, like, lakhs had been spent on the wedding. You know how Indian weddings are, and 1,000 people had been invited, and so many people were involved. And I didn't know how to explain to them what had happened because I hadn't processed what had happened to me. It was surreal. It didn't feel like something that could happen to someone like me. So I think processing what is happening to you takes so long. So what we need to do is, first of all, identify what is abuse. Okay, because my perpetrator and his family told me कि तुम hospital में नहीं गए मतलब it was not
ठीक है
abuse.
हाँ
हाँ,
इतना
तो
इतनी बड़ी
अब्यूज
कोई
कैसे
बात
हुआ?
नहीं
आई
थी
थिंक,
हाँ
और ये सब होता रहता है हर शादी में होता रहता है. It all happens behind closed doors because we live in India. Nobody talks about it. This is all gaslighting. Please don't believe anything your perpetrator says. And the minute a person, whether it's a man or a woman, hits you the first time, please leave them. Trust me, they're not going to change. They clearly have no respect for you. They clearly don't love you. So no matter what they say, always take people by their actions more than their words. So I think that's something that it taught me, and even till today, I practice that. I don't take people at face value anymore. I always observe people's actions. So see if he's treating you badly. It doesn't matter if he says, I love you, because my perpetrator used to keep saying that. He would, after every time he hit me, he would kind of become the nicest guy in the world for the next 2-3 months, and I would start thinking that what is happening? Like, did I just imagine the whole thing? So, this is the way they function. So, abusers have a pattern. And once you read the book, you'll understand how these patterns work. Okay. So, they lift you up till here. So, when they're dating you, when they're, wooing you, that time they'll be very, very, he flattered me to the sky. Like, no man had ever spoken to me like that. And he was very poetic and, good looking guy, very sophisticated, NRI boy. Even people like this he
something you
came.
can't imagine like what you
Can't
said your
imagine.
background, this is a
Yeah,
modern relationship, this is typically we think that this happens to women or the men
yeah,
that are may not be of our stature or of our society, but we are
yeah.
seeing that this happens on all stratas.
From the chawls in Mumbai to the Malabar Hill, the diamond wearing, ladies. It's happened to almost everybody I know. I've had an actress who's called me and said that her husband, who's also an actor, threw her out of a moving car. I've had a dancer message me that her boyfriend broke her spine and she couldn't dance ever again. So, I mean, these stories also shape me because I've had a lot of author friends also call me and say, please help us. And I don't know what to do because I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a social activist. I don't know what to tell them beyond that. These are the laws, these are the lawyers, these are the helplines, and emotionally, this is what you can do. So first thing I would always tell everybody is please identify what is abuse, learn about it. If you feel something is amiss, don't second guess your own self because I kept undermining my own instinct. So please don't do that. Because that person will strip you away of your confidence, they'll strip you away of your intelligence because they'll keep undermining you. And he used to
No,
gang up with his parents and do that. So I thought I was like worthy of nothing, you know. imagine someone like me.
Yeah. No,
So
but I think
yeah,
you've done the biggest thing. You've written down your truth, which is going to give so much power to so many women to actually speak up,
yeah,
because otherwise we feel that we're very ashamed and it's some fault of ours. So I
yeah.
think you are, through your own way, giving them that power to say, you know what, I'm going to understand this better and maybe I'll also have the courage to leave. But the book is also not all so glory. It does also have some fun parts. I mean, I think especially the divorce party, which
I
is
actually
the
had one, by the way. I
Tell
didn't
us
get
about.
arrested, but I did have one.
Yeah, because that I know what you say, and I love the sentence you said. Hinduism doesn't have a cleansing ritual for a pavitra, a shudh, or a tatvi. but
Yeah,
but you also give us a good message that a failed marriage does not diminish you. It had not been futile. Its collapse has not been a coincidence, but a tightly structured design to lead me like a magic carpet into a future that is bright and hopeful. This provides me with great consolation. So I think you looked at it and you looked at it with great positivity. Tell us about that.
uh, everybody looks at me now and they're like, "Oh, Meghna is so productive. You published 5 books in the last 5 years, despite having kids." Now I have a 4.5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and especially in the pandemic. But I tell them that when someone takes away everything of yours and you have to pick up those broken pieces of yourself and put yourself back together, you realize that nobody can do it except for yourself. Not your parents, not your best friend, not your relative, not your next lover, or whoever comes into your life. Also, you have to do it for yourself, and you owe it to yourself to become a stronger person. And also remember that one person should not define you. If somebody is bringing you down for absolutely no reason, it's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection on them, and a bad one at that. So don't let anybody else define you, and you pour yourself into what works for you. So I found writing because of the abuse I was going through. I've written this in the book also, that I was working in New York at that time, and I would get done from work, closing. I was reporting from the New York Stock Exchange with Bloomberg UTV. I would get done by 4 o'clock, and then I didn't want to go home to my abuser. So I would go. I joined a lot of writing classes. So just imagine. And that time I wasn't thinking so long term. I'm like, okay, I love writing. I've never had time to do it earlier because I've always been working in corporate jobs. So I said, chalo, let me, instead of going back, just do something productive. And that writing saved my life. It was literally the life raft I was hanging on to. So 1.5 Wife and Happy Birthday, my first 2 books, were both written in New York during the time that I was undergoing abuse. So, for me, but both those books are my life rafts. Like, that's the reason I'm still here today, that I'm actually alive. Otherwise, I don't think I would have gotten out of it, either physically, like been alive, or even mentally, because I know women who've been abused who've never come up from that, from being drowned like that. They've never come up to surface again, to breathe again. So again, my message is always that please don't doubt yourself, don't doubt your talent, your ability. Don't ever let one person, especially your perpetrator, define you. So you're stronger than that, you're better than that. And please take my own life story. I'm married to a wonderful guy now, touch wood, and have 2 beautiful kids with him. And that's the lesson you should take away, And I found my passion, my calling, because of my abuse. So something beautiful, like a lotus in a swamp, right? Or in spite of the swamp. Uh,
No.
that's the way to live life. Find beauty in tragedy.
And no, and it's a beautifully written book because it's a thriller combined with a very, very strong message, and it's a page turner because once you start reading, you have to continue. So, but it's also a book that guides women, and you've said that please read it because of the understanding, and it goes beyond the surface level of helping you to understand what you said already. What is abuse? What is mental issues? What are the perpetrator? Who is a perpetrator? Any last words you would like to say? Why you want people to read this book?
Because I think, Sukriti, we need to take the conversation forward. Like I mentioned, that 200 million abused women in our country. That means 1 in every 3 women is a victim of abuse. That means almost all the women we know have, in some form or the other, faced abuse. And I'm not talking about the physical. I'm talking even about emotional. Because when you read the book, you realize, my God, kya log karte hain, yaar. You can't make this stuff up. I think the reason it's hit a raw nerve with people and resonated so much is because it's unimaginable that somebody would treat another human being like that. And I'm not talking about physical abuse. I'm talking about emotional abuse. The way they chip away at you, at your
Yeah.
self-confidence, at your self-belief. And I think that's one thing I would say, that just take the conversation forward, because it's taken someone like me 8 years to be able to write a book like this. Imagine what other women are going through. So, please stand up for the women in your life. Please stand up for yourself, and take it forward. Not because I've written the book, but because there's a message of hope in the book. So that's why I'm very happy it's becoming a movie, because this book is one book that deserves it. Let's get the message out there. Let's encourage women and men, by the way. There's like 5% of men also that who undergo abuse, and nobody's giving them a platform. They are rebuked, they are laughed at if they speak up about, especially physical abuse at the hands of women or their other partners. And why are we undermining them? Abuse is abuse. It does not have a gender. So, please take the conversation forward, and let's all, we're in this together. And I think especially in the shadow pandemic that we've had, domestic violence cases have risen so much during COVID-19 across the world. So let's please, we're all in this together, just the way we've been together in the pandemic. We've all suffered. Let's help women who suffered even more, or even men who suffered even more because of abuse, be able to pluck themselves out of sites of violence, and restart their like a new life for themselves. So I think a book like this will kind of hopefully ignite that little flame of hope, of redemption, of fighting back, clapping back, slapping back, whatever it is, and we'll all be happier together as a society, a nation, and a world.
Thank you. Because seeing you, seeing the positivity, seeing the hope, seeing your voice and hearing it, I think this book is definitely something that is going to help a lot of women out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks for having me, Sukriti. And look forward to many more such conversations.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.